The US President Joe Biden is leading the world into an economic abyss. Abyss is nothing but a pit with no bottom. The biggest mistake this guy did, although he's made a lot of mistakes since the day he took office, the biggest mistake and most recent is he's tried to fight a military war with non-military measures. He tried to sanction Russia, and in that way he inadvertently sanctioned his own people and the world's populace at large. See, since the human civilization has been documented, every single year there has been some or the other war going on. Most recent would be the World War One, World War Two. After that, numerous Cold Wars, and then post-Cold War in Afghanistan, in Syria, most recently, the Gulf, the Iraq, the India, Pakistan, East Pakistan, West Pakistan, Bangladesh warfare. So this has been going on and will continue to be there until the last day of human civilization. Some or the other warfare, military warfare will continue. However, you cannot fight a military war with economic measures. Joe Biden tried to sanction Russia. Don't forget, Russia is not a Venezuela or an Iran. Russia is an economic superpower. Russia is also part of the UN Security Council permanent members. Russia is also the country which single-handedly won the World War II with maximum casualties, civilian military included, amongst all countries who were part of World War II. So Joe Biden tried to counter the military aggression of Putin's Russia with economic sanctions, which he conveniently forgot that United States imports major part of its fertilizers from Russia and Belarus. Don't forget, United States is the largest, has the largest arable land in the world. Arable meaning the fertile land. There are many big countries in the world, from Australia to Russia to China to Brazil, but not every part of land is fertile or arable. So the largest arable land in the world or accessible, like Brazil, majority of that land is inside Amazon forest, which is kind of untouchable. So the largest arable land in the world is United States. They have a very strong agrarian economy. And number two is India. However, Joe Biden actually not sanctioned Russia. He sanctioned his own populace, as I mentioned earlier. Never in the history has been a central bank being sanctioned. Never in the history has been a country being sanctioned which is supplier, a global supplier. Don't forget, Russia is a powerhouse. It is a superpower in almost everything we can think of. It is a military superpower. It is an agriculture superpower. It is an energy superpower. If you sanction or corner a superpower and try to pull out its banks, its central banks from the SWIFT mechanism, the money or the commodities make their way through some or the other alternative system. This has been the norm in every field. If you tighten screws beyond a limit in a established setup, a parallel setup comes up. So nothing of that sort the sanctions meant for Russia has impacted them. Their currency is back to pre-war levels. Their economy is just doing good. Their oil, their edible oil, their fertilizers, they are making their way through to other destinations. So Joe Biden seems to be highly unfit for that job. In the modern history of human civilization, modern history meaning for the last 100, 150 years, United States has been a leading country in almost everything. Globally, they have military presence in each and every sea, ocean, land, geographies. They are present everywhere. Their corporations, their money is everywhere. Every central bank in the world has US dollar deposits, or you can call it foreign exchange reserves. Now, what this Joe Biden has done is he's taken his job too lightly, or he's extremely unfit. The latter one looks a clear observation. He's taking his job just too lightly. He's highly unfit. He doesn't understand the ramifications of his actions. You cannot fight a military war with civilian measures, with economic sanctions. No, it doesn't work. To run a country, to feed your populace, to run your corporations, you need products, you need commodities, you need raw materials. And raw material is scattered across the world, from oil to various agricultural produce to other metal and mining deposits. So in a globalized world, you can't just stop the global trade in such an arbitrary fashion. So to fight a military war, you need to send your military to fight that war. You need to send your weapons to fight their war. You can't sanction a country like Russia, and that leads to shortage of commodities across the world. So coming to the stock market perspective, understand one thing. In the developed world, everything is institutionalized. In a developing world, you have self-employed. Majority of the population is self-employed. People have hardware shops, people have jewelry shops, people have food counters. They're all managed by individuals or their families since generations, and many of them are self-employed. In the developed countries, everything is institutionalized. The hardware shop is the Walmart, a food shop is a McDonald's, a second-hand car dealership is also institutionalized. Every single person in the developed economies is an employee who takes a salary. So for a salaried employee, nothing matters but his retirement pension. So after the 401k was introduced in the late or the mid 1970s, that all the money of what the employees receive, instead of going into some other assets, it directly goes into the stock market. And stock market feeds the capital requirement of those corporations who actually pay salaries to those employees. So from the president of the United States to any humble worker of Walmart, everyone is a salaried employee. So for everyone, the 401k matters. And most of the money 401k goes into the US stock market and the US Treasury bond market. Now, post World War II, various agreements came up, from Bretton Woods to whatnot. So, the United States dollar became the major currency for global trade. Then, even the gold standard was abolished. Once the gold standard was abolished, the US dollar became a fiat currency. So earlier, the developed economies, that is the G7, they held the major part of, outside the US, the dollar holdings. Once the gold standard was abolished, all these countries, from France to Germany to Italy, asked for equivalent of gold against what they held as US dollars into reserves. There is a famous letter from Charles de Gaulle, the then president of France, asking for United States, okay, these are your US dollar holdings which we had, take it back, give us our gold in tons. So all of this started to happen, and then the gold standard got abolished. And worth mentioning a point is that these G7 countries with convertible currencies have no foreign exchange reserves at all, only some basic stuff for basic trades. So for India, for China, or any other country, they boast of foreign exchange reserve into billions and trillions of US dollars. You go to United Kingdom, you go to Europe, they don't hold foreign exchange reserves, because they have their own currency which is convertible and tradable freely into the market. So if you export something from India to Germany, they'll pay you in euros, and they'll ask you to manage the cross currency risks on your own. Post the gold standard, a new standard came up, that is the petrodollar. Suddenly oil was discovered in the Gulf, majorly Saudi Arabia, and then United States promised Saudi Arabia military security, because it was surrounded by countries where dictators were coming up. In those days, these Muammar Gaddafis, the Saddam Husseins were young, budding politicians who had big dreams. So to protect itself, Saudi Arabia agreed to sell each and every barrel of oil in US dollars. That's how the US dollar has continued to be a reserve currency of the world. And it is the reserve currency for rest of the world. Rest of the world meaning rest of countries other than G7. The G7 have their own currencies, so they don't need to keep piles and piles of dollars. This is how the former colonies or former colonial powers are still the colonial powers through their money. But what this Russia war on Ukraine has thrown bare is money just can't buy anything and everything after a certain point. The real wealth now is the real commodity wealth, the real agriculture wealth, the real fertilizer wealth you have, the real oil wealth you have, the real metal mining wealth you have. So by sanctioning Russia in a already tight market for supply chain, Joe Biden has kind of created a situation where suddenly there is a artificial short supply of major commodities. Major commodities with I mean the fertilizer which is required for production of food, the oil which is required to run your gas inside kitchens, gas inside your vehicles, gas inside your airplanes, gas inside your homes to heat them, gas inside factories to burn the boilers and the welding machines. So suddenly there is a shortage of everything, and the standard of living of the global populace has gone up so much that just to run the global economy you need all these commodities as inputs just to run it and make it 2 plus 2 4. So with all the economic and civilian measures and sanctions what Joe Biden has taken against Russia is actually taking pretty quickly the global economy into an abyss. And the most important thing here is the Putin Ukraine war only escalated it. When Donald Trump was the president, and then he was, and the presidentship was taken over by the Joe Biden. He Donald Trump did a handover of oil price to Joe Biden at $30. Immediately when Joe Biden became the president, he took drastic measures on cancelling oil pipelines like Keystone and other stuff. And he is single-handedly responsible for taking the global oil price from $30 to $90. Later, the Russia-Ukraine war took the oil price from 90 to 120, 130, and it is hovering around that level. Joe Biden conveniently forgot that US remains an importer of almost everything under the sun. Although United States imports majority of its oil from Canada and the Gulf, still the oil prices he has to pay are what the global prices are. So it is a seller's market despite US being a major importer. Fertilizers, you can't just open up a fertilizer plant out of nowhere. You need gas feed for that. Where is the gas? It comes from Russia. Where is the gas? It comes from Qatar. From Russia the gas used to flow pretty easily via pipelines into Europe. Now Europe is planning to import gas from United States and Qatar via LNG. Where are the terminals? There are some terminals in Spain, but where are the pipelines to transport within many landlocked countries in the Europe? So this is this situation, what Joe Biden has brought the world into, is a serious misadventure, miscalculation, or I can very bluntly say any lack of calculation. The decisions Joe Biden and his advisors are taking are like the intellectual ability of school kids. So if you face some adversary, a school kid reacts in a blink of a second, while a matured politician studies the adverse impact and then calculates his steps and then takes a decision. Joe Biden needs to be made understand that his irresponsible or miscalculated steps have global ramifications. He'll lead the entire humanity into serious crisis. So Joe Biden is not just anti-Putin or anti-Russia. He is actually anti-humanity. And the sad part of the United States politics is you cannot remove a president unless he has committed some felony crime or unless the Congress puts up a letter of unfitness of the president. So to commit a crime you have to do something, and this guy is doing nothing actually. So sitting there doing nothing is also an issue that you cannot pinpoint any criminal directional fingers towards Joe Biden and impeach him because he's doing nothing. He's just reacting to statements, he's just reacting to happenings. He's not taking any initiative because he doesn't seem to have that acumen, neither the buffoons who surround him and call themselves advisors. So we have another 2 years of Joe Biden left. So from the stock market perspective, unless this guy is removed from the office, he'll take the world towards the doom. From the stock market perspective, there is no case for bottom fishing. There is no case to look for any kind of bottoms in any kind of stocks or sectors, because every sector, every industry, every company is linked directly to global trade or indirectly to global commodity prices. So we'll take every aspect of this stock market impact analysis of the actions of the President Joe Biden, sector by sector, industry by industry, and country by country, in various podcasts which are going to follow from here on. But the gist of the talk is this guy, Joe Biden, has no ability to counter any country militarily. It was a clear signal of what he did in Afghanistan, or what happened in Afghanistan post his misadventures and miscalculations. This actually boosted Russian President Putin's thoughts, and he attacked Ukraine because he knew that a president who cannot even be successful against some thugs who call themselves Taliban, he won't be able to stand anywhere close to a organized military attack by Russia. And it proved to this date. So guys, it's about to end the podcast with a closing note that unless Joe Biden is removed from the office, there is no case for investing any kind of fresh money into any market in the world. Just stay away from buying any kind of stocks in the world. Now, your major question of the listeners would be, okay, now where we should invest, where we should put our money into. So this discussion or this answer will come in the following podcast. Stay tuned. Thank you very much.